What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? BizzyDad here, you there, checking out this quick video, which is a look at the Vingolf 2 set that just came out and their hits and misses. I'm going to take a look at one card from each color that I think is a big hit and one that I think is a little bit of a miss. We'll discuss why I like the hits, why I don't really dig the misses, and I also give some alternatives to what you can use instead. It's a little bit of fun, and just wanted to point out that I'm not some professional or big time player here. So this is strictly just opinion, and it's really just meant to get some discussion going. So really like to hear what you think about it. And we're going to start things off with light. So the card that I picked out for their hit is the Flak Jacket. This is an addition for J Resonators. So here we have a card that can go on your J ruler when you flip them over. It costs 3, 1 light and 2 others, and it says prevent all damage that would be dealt to added J Resonator. So what's to note here is it doesn't have to go on your J ruler. You could put this on any resonator you want. But the fact that it does have the option to go on your J ruler makes it so much better. So just having this on your J ruler, no damage can get to them. So they can't get any battle damage. They can't take any spell damage. If they decide to block, they'll take that. But anything sent towards your J ruler with the Flak Jacket won't get through. So it's a really great card, really great addition. The longer that you can keep it on your J ruler, the more invincible they're going to be, the more damage they're going to get done. So really interested to see how we can get Flak Jacket on our J rulers now that it's out. For the miss, I'm going to have to go with Martha Lippanen, who is a Servant Resonator, a 2-drop, 1 light and 1 to play. 0 attack, 1,000 defense. This woman is pregnant. What is she doing on the battlefield? But obviously she is there as a wall. No attack and 1,000 defense. So while 1,000 defense is nothing to laugh at, that's pretty strong. I do think there's a better option, which I'm going to show you right now. And it is the Artificial Moon. This costs 2 to play as well. It's 2 void. So any 2 colors or any 2 will get this out on the field. It's a resonator as well. And it is the same 0 attack, but 1,500 defense. So for the same 2, you're getting a pretty good bump up on that defensive wall. If I had to pick, I obviously would choose the Moon here. They basically do the same thing, except the Moon is going to give us 500 more defense. So for Martha, it would have been nice to see if there was some sort of extra ability to her to pay an extra light and she'll gain 300. I don't know, just a little twist added to her to make it so where it is not so much of a difference between the two, especially for the same cost. So we're going to move on to fire, and I do want to give an honorable mention to Bombardment. This is the new Thunder, 2-drop instant. This card deals 600 damage to target player or resonator. So people who use red, who love Thunder, like this is your new Thunder. It's going to cost you 1 more. A lot of people complain that Thunder at 1 is kind of cheap. But that's not really the hit that I picked out of there, as much as I do love that card and will use it. My hit here out of here is Clarissa Callahan, who is a 1-drop resonator. She's military / nameless, so that's her race. The ability, the rest ability is where she really shines. You rest her and target resonator gains swiftness until end of turn. So this is really a big setup resonator right here. You get her out on the field early, excuse me, and all the resonators that will come in after her on your subsequent turns, so the turns to follow, you could bring in a resonator, rest her, and then the big resonator gains swiftness so they can attack right away. So this is a card that your opponents are going to want to deal with really quickly, because the longer she stays out on the field, just the more damage she's going to cause by giving the new resonator swiftness, who can just come in and just swing right away. So she's a really good card. I didn't notice her on my first run through, but I definitely want to see if I could sneak her into some red decks and see if we can cause some trouble with her. Okay, our miss here out of the red is the Large Explosion. So you can see the cost right away. It's 5. 2 red and 3, and it's a spell Chant, so you can only play this on your turn. And this card deals 800 damage to each player and Resonator. So yes, on the surface, this does get to do a really good amount of damage, but you have to keep in mind that you're doing it to yourself as well. So you're going to hit yourself for 800 damage, and you can hit all your Resonators for 800 damage as well. So you might accidentally start killing your own Resonators, and depending how late in the game this is, you might actually bring yourself to lose. For 5, it's expensive, so you're definitely not going to see it till later in the game. I would suggest the Flame King Shout in replacement of it. This is also a spell Chant, and the cost is 3, not 5. So 2 red and 1 of other. And this card is really good. When this card comes in, it deals 400 damage to each Resonator your opponent controls. So not as big as the 800, but you're also not hitting yourself. You're going to hit all your opponent's Resonators for 400, but that's not all. After you hit them, you may put a Resonator with total cost 3 or less from your hand into your field, and it gains swiftness until the end of turn. So we get a spell that comes in and immediately just toasts your opponent's Resonators for 400 each. And then you get to put a Resonator 3 or less from your hand into your field, which gains swiftness. And the card that really gets used a lot with the Flame King Shout is Keeper of the Past Uther, who's an 800/800 3-drop, so she can come out with the Flame King Shout. But she has a great enter ability. When this card enters your field, you may remove up to 2 cards in your graveyard from the game. And if you do, it deals 200 damage multiplied by the combined total cost of the cards removed this way to target J Resonator. So basically, Uther comes in, and you could take 2 cards from your graveyard out of the game, and their total cost, multiply that times 200, and that's how much damage you could deal, not just to a Resonator, to a J Resonator. So you can go after a J Ruler if they're on the field as well. One of the cards you could remove is Flame King Shout, because it will be in the graveyard by the time Uther comes onto the field. So if you look, Flame King Shout is 3. So right off the bat, if you pick the Flame King Shout, that's 600 damage you can deal to another Resonator that's on the board that's already been hit for 4. So the other 6 could potentially kill it. And you can also banish take another card out of the graveyard, remove it from the game too. So if you have another Flame King Shout or a 3-drop or a 4-drop, that's another 600 to 800 you could add to the total damage. So Uther, by just coming in, will hit any J Resonator from 600, 800, 1,000, whatever you pull out of the graveyard. And don't forget, Uther also has swiftness, so now she could swing for 800 to your opponent, to a rested Resonator, maybe to take them out too. So it's a really good combo for 3 for the Flame King Shout, the spell Chant. This seems to be a much deadlier card, and you don't get dealt any of the damage. So you don't have to worry about potentially killing your own Resonators or losing your own life out of the game. Let's move on to blue. And the big hit here is a 1-drop instant called Sniping from the Blind Spot. I really like this card. Like I said, 1-drop, return target rested Resonator to its owner's hand. So this has great implications for both you and your opponent. If your opponent has a rested Resonator that you don't want to deal with, or it's expensive, you can just send it right back to your opponent's hand. They're going to have to deal with finding a way to get it back on the board. If you want to clear the board, they have somebody down, even though they can't block, or maybe they can block in some way, or maybe they could be recovered. You just send this right back to their hand, and it'll just disrupt their play. But also for your own Resonators too. If you have a Resonator that attacked, and you don't want your opponent to have a shot at killing it on his turn, you just play this card and send it right back to your hand. Also, if it's a cheap enough Resonator that has a good enter effect, you can send it back to your hand and then play it again for the same enter effect. Or if it's a Resonator with swiftness, you can have it come in, swing right away, play Sniping from the Blind Spot, send it back to your hand, play it again with swiftness, swing twice. So really good applications here. This is a pretty creative card, and I really like that. For the miss, I'm going to give it to the Carefree 3, which is a 4-drop spell Chant. You can only do this on your turn, and it says draw 3 cards. Now, while I love being able to draw in this game, and draw power is power for sure. It's a steep cost. You have to pay 4 to draw 3 cards, and it can only be done on your turn. Maybe if it was an instant and you could do it at any time, like on your opponent's turn or after your draw phase, if you don't like what you drew, then it would probably be a very powerful card, maybe too powerful. Maybe for 5, you would have to make the cost there. But I think the alternative here is a card called Foresee, and it is also a spell chant, and it costs 2 instead of the 4, and this says draw 2 cards. So we don't draw as much. We draw 2 cards instead of 3, but if we're looking for cost effective, this only costs 2 to draw 2 cards, and the other one costs 4 to draw 3 cards. So the math is in our favor for Foresee. If you happen to have 2 in your hand, you can play them both on your turn and draw 4 cards, whereas the Carefree 3 is only letting you draw 3. So I think if you look at it overall, cost effective, and being able to draw Foresee is a little bit of a better option, and I would choose that. We'll move on to Wind, and this is one of the more interesting cards in the Vingolf 2 set, and it's Magary. So she is a 3-drop Resonator, 200, 400, but look at the rest ability. If you rest her, you get to produce 2 green will. And green has always been known for ramping, just getting more stones and more will out there. This is an unbelievable card, and it works really well with the way activate abilities happen in this game and how you could take advantage of it. So activate can happen at any time. So when you draw your card, when it becomes your turn, you draw your card. Before your recovery phase, you can rest and use her activate ability to produce 2 green will. Then it's time for recovery. So you recover all your cards and your stones, then you call your stone, and you can rest Magary now again for another 2 green will. So just by her on the field alone gives you the opportunity to produce 4 green will in one turn, and that is just incredibly strong. She is weak, the 200, 400 defense. She will be killed by a lot of instant spells. And again, this is going to be one of those cards where once your opponent sees her come out, they're going to gun for her. So if there's any way to protect her, I think there's another card in green that takes all her damage, but a special armor, anything else that could prevent damage or take damage away from her. Your opponent, like I said, when she's on the board, your opponents are going to be going for her because they do not want you to have the ability to produce all that will. Just 2 will alone is great. You do it with the recover phase after the draw phase, and that's 4. That's just dangerous. My miss for the green is Zaraz, is a 2-drop Resonator, 500, 500. It is a unique ability. When this card enters your field, put the top card of your Magic Stone deck into your Magic Stone area if you control less Magic Stones than your opponent. So this is a really good way to catch up quick. If you go second, and here it is on turn 2 or turn 3, your opponent has 3 stones, you have 2 stones, you use those 2 stones, you call out Zaraz, and then you get to put a stone in your area, and all of a sudden the game is tied as far as stone count. You each have 3. So I don't want to knock that. That is really good. It's a really good ability. The reason why I say it's a miss is, what if you go first? What if you have more stones than your opponent? I mean, if you go first, you usually always have more stones than your opponent. And especially in green, where a green likes to ramp, you might have more stones than your opponent, even if you go second. So as good as it is, it's also not so good, because if you have more stones than your opponent, you're not getting it. So I would recommend, as a alternative, the Timekeeper Elf, who is 3 to play. Okay, so we have 1 more than Zaraz. She's 1 green and 2. Same stats, 500 attack, 500 defense. But when she enters the field, put the top card of your Magic Stone deck into your Magic Stone area rested. So we do have a little bit of a difference. When Zaraz comes in, the stone will come in live. If you have less stones than your opponent, you can put it right into your area rested and can use it that turn if possible. The Timekeeper Elf, it comes in rested, so you won't be able to use it. But with the elf, it's guaranteed to come in. If the if the elf hits the field, you're getting an extra stone. Yes, it's going to be rested, but you're getting an extra stone without having to do anything. Zeri comes in, you'll get the stone, but only if you have fewer stones. So in this case, I would stick with the Timekeeper elf. Zeri's ability is good, but there is a condition to it, and if that condition is not met, then you don't get the stone, which is kind of a waste. Let's move on to Dark, and when I did my box opening, I saw this Resonator in Dark, and I said, oh, I really like this one. So it's fitting that it ends up being my hit out of the Dark, and it's Baldrin Gassenarl, who is a 3-drop military Galian army Resonator, 700, 700, so pretty good stats. But when this card is put into a graveyard from your field, your opponent loses 400 life, which is, I mean, is really good. This cannot be canceled or blocked by any sort of protection spells. It's not dealing damage to your opponent. It's not targeting your opponent. Your opponent just loses 400 life. And anyone who's seen my decks know that I like, when I have some blue elements, I like Adamberli, the Cthulhu. And when you incarnate Dark Resonators for Adamberli, your opponent loses 400 life as well. So it's a way to blast your opponent for 800 life, and there's really not much they could do about it. Plus, not only that, he's 700, 700, so nothing to sneeze at there. He could do some damage while he's on the field, but when he hits that graveyard, your opponent get ready to lose some life. The miss here is, to me, is Hammer of the Valkyrie. It's a 4-drop instant, 2 dark, 2 other, and it says destroy target J Resonator. So destroying J Resonators is great, and I can understand the cost because it gives you the ability to go after their J ruler. But the cost is 4, and it's steep, and it's a gamble because this has a chance to be canceled. Depending on what your opponents have, they might be able to cancel this card, and you've just wasted 4 stones. I just think that you have other Resonators that have enter effects of destroying target Resonators just for coming into the field. I know they're going after the J Ruler here. That J Ruler option is what makes it so steep, and I understand that. But the fact that it can be canceled really worries me. So I have 2 alternatives here. First is the Black Moonbeam, which is a 2-drop instant, and it says destroy target J Ruler. Players cannot chase to this card. So with the exception of some really, really extreme circumstances, this is going to kill your opponent's J Ruler. No problem. And it's going to only cost you half. It's only costing you that 2 dark. Now, I understand that this only goes for the J Ruler. You can't target a Resonator with that, but I think the sacrifice is worth it, knowing that for 2, you can destroy the J Ruler and there's no chasing to it. It can't be canceled. Like I said, in rare cases, which we're not going to get into here, but it can be done. But for the most part, it can't be chased. You play this card for the 2, and their J Ruler is dying. Also, if you're looking for something for the Resonators, Dark Purge is a really good card, which is 1 dark and 1 other. It's also a spell chant instant, so you can do this at any time. And target J Resonator gains -6/-6 until end of turn. So here's another card that gives you the option to go after the J Ruler. It says target J Resonator. And if you have 2 of these in your hand, it's the same 4 that the Hammer of the Valkyrie is going to cost you. And you get to hit a J Resonator for -12, -12. Now, I know that doesn't mean a guaranteed destroy, but 1200 will take care of a lot of Resonators and a lot of J Rulers. I think that it gives you a little bit more of that flexibility because you can just pop a Resonator that's 400 or 500. You can just get rid of him as well, or you could stack them to go after the J Resonator. Black Moonbeam can only go after the J Ruler. Dark Purge gives you a little bit more of an option. But again, I just think those 2 cards are a little bit of a better alternative than the 1 card for the Hammer of Valkyrie that's going to cost 4 and might not work, might get canceled. Finally, I wanted to go to the Void cards. The only Void in here is the Regalia, and the big hit to me is the Ragnite. This is the only non-tank. Well, the other Regalia are tank, but I picked this simply for its abilities. First off, it costs 3 to play, so any 3 color will get this on the field because it is a void cost. You rest it, excuse me, you rest this card to produce any color. And that's just such a great ability. Just rest it and pick any color you want. You could banish this card and produce any color. So again, another way to produce any color. And for 2 light and rest and banish, you can recover your J ruler. So nice little perk at the end. It seems to be a desperation play, or maybe if it's a way that your J ruler could swing twice and end the game. But just, again, the ability to produce any color. And we'll also look at the draw, activate, recover phase. So you have your Ragnite on the field. You draw your card to begin your turn. You rest it and produce a color. So that color's floating out there. You then recover everything. And now it goes to your main phase. You can rest and produce a second color. Now, if you're in a pinch or you need one more to bring your big guns on the field or make a really big play to end the game, you can now banish it, and you've made 3 you've made 3 colors all in that one turn. It really makes Ragnite a dangerous card because any color, it's not like Magary, which is just limited to the green. This could literally give you 3 of any color on your turn, depending on how you play it. The tanks are okay. I looked through them and I wasn't too crazy in love with any of them. But if I had to pick one for it to be a miss, it would be the nameless tank. It costs 3 to play. And continuously, whenever a nameless Resonator enters your field, you could recover this card. So on the surface, it doesn't seem like a big deal, but the fact that it has some rest abilities will definitely help you out. So rest it, and this card deals 100 damage to target Resonator, or you rest it, and if your J ruler would deal damage this turn, it deals that much plus 200 instead. So it's going to follow the same principles with the draw, activate, recover. Activate, you can hit one of your opponent's Resonators for 200 that way. And if you play a nameless Resonator, you can always recover and then rest it again. So that's really the purpose behind it, is to put the Resonators out and keep being able to recover it and deal damage, or recover it and pump up your J ruler to deal more damage. But I think there is a better replacement for it, and that is Laevateinn, the Demon Sword. So right away, you're going to see the big difference in cost. It's 0. This is a free regalia to play. Off the top, your J ruler gains swiftness. So this is a really good regalia, especially if you have a strong J ruler who could come in and do a lot of damage. This is a great regalia to have with it because they can just swing right away. It also has a rest ability until the end of turn. If your J ruler would deal damage, it deals that much plus 200 instead. So we see the same effect as our nameless tank here in the Laevateinn. There is also more text because this regalia belongs to Melgus, the Melgus ruler. If you rest it, it gets that pump, but then it also gains imperishable, and you can play the God's Art for 2 less. So good little discount there for Melgus. But there are more abilities for this card. If you banish a Resonator, you get to recover this card, which is pretty slick. You can rest it to pump up your J ruler's damage 200 if they do it that turn. And then if one of your Resonators is going to get killed, say like your opponent hit a kill spell on it, or a quick cast to deal damage, instead of letting the damage get through and having your Resonator get killed, banish the Resonator and you can recover the Laevateinn. So that's a good way to now maybe pump up your J ruler another 200. Your opponent's kill spell worked but kind of didn't because it let you recover this card and pump them up some more. If you discard another Laevateinn, if you happen to have one in your hand, and you discard it, you produce a red will, which is good. It helps you produce a fire in a pinch. You can get a will to play something. And if you banish this card, your J ruler gains imperishable until the end of turn. So Laevateinn is a really multi-purpose regalia for 0. It's one that opponents try to get rid of because of the trouble it can cause. And I just think that it brings more to the table for 0 than the nameless tank does for 3. So guys, that is it. Would really like to know what you think. Do you agree? Do you disagree? You got any other hits and misses from the Vingolf 2 set? Let me know what you think. Drop a comment below. Likes are always appreciated. And guys, please share and subscribe. We've got a lot more videos coming up. So, guys, as usual, thanks for a few minutes, and I will talk to you soon. Later.